This week I'm excited to kick off a little series that I put together called Ask Christy. So I encourage you all to submit any functional nutrition questions that you might have for me on your specific balance journey. So my first question today comes from Jenna, and Jenna asked, what are some high protein options that are good for those with IBS, Crohn's, and ulcerative colitis that aren't hard to digest protein shakes and protein bars? Okay, so for those of you that don't know, IBS, Crohn's, and ulcerative colitis, they are inflammatory conditions of the bowel. They are considered autoimmune conditions. Okay, so inflammation is a key aspect when it comes to treatment and nutrition for these specific conditions. So what is recommended for minimizing symptoms for anyone with these conditions, most especially when someone is in a flare, as they call it, or basically a heightened inflammatory state. So low FODMAP nutrition or low FODMAP diet is what is most recommended to control the symptoms of a flare from these digestive issues. A lot of gas, a lot of bloating, terrible diarrhea. So FODMAP stands for fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. I always do that. Polyols. So what FODMAPs mean, it's basically an acronym of all the fibers that are essentially very hard for the gut to digest. So when you're in a flare or we're just trying to minimize symptoms with these conditions, following a low FODMAP diet is best. So specifically when it comes to proteins and eating low FODMAP for these conditions, so this one seems obvious, right? But your meat sources of protein are going to be the best situation in terms of getting a lot of protein with zero FODMAPs. But I wanted to add in a caveat. So eating specifically meat sources of protein that are very high in omega-3s, those are going to be very anti-inflammatory and also help calm down the gut. So things like salmon, so fatty fish, so salmon, tuna, mackerel are some of your higher three that people will eat voluntarily, as well as also choosing like grass-fed, grass-finished proteins. So a lot of our conventional meats are much higher in omega-6s and no essentially omega-3s in them, but just choosing grass-fed, grass-finished beef, so to say, is going to be higher in omega-3s, again, which are anti-inflammatory, than they are omega-6s. Omega-6s are pro-inflammation, okay? So your meat sources, fatty fish like salmon and tuna, mackerel, any sort of meat source, though, is going to be very high protein, but low FODMAP. Okay, next thing could be your hard cheeses. So things like Parmesan and cheddar, even some soft cheeses like mozzarella cheeses are going to have protein in them, and they do have a good source of fat in them as well, but some of them can be very high protein, and the harder the cheese, the lower FODMAP the cheese is going to be. So a lot of people tolerate things like Parmesan. They can have a couple slices of Parmesan. That could be 10 to 15 grams of protein and not bother your stomach at all. Next source of protein, plant proteins. This is where you have to be more careful because your FODMAPs are going to be in your plant sources, right? So things though like chia seeds or peanuts and peanut butter. So 2 tablespoons of chia seeds is going to have 6 to 7 grams of protein in it, but it is considered very low FODMAP. So even just some peanut butter spread on a low FODMAP piece of bread or something along those lines. So you can find certain plant sources that are going to be high protein, but are low FODMAP as well. Next one is bone broth. So I know this is hit or miss with some people. Some people love bone broth. Other people are like, oh, I can't stand it. I can't stand the smell. But bone broth has 10 grams of protein per cup in it. So if you could sip on it in between meals, that's ideal for stabilizing blood sugar and getting in that protein collagen source, which actually helps heal the gut lining, which is essential for conditions like this. But if you're the type of person that's not going to just sip on bone broth in the middle of the afternoon, something I like to do is cook cook with it. So I know rice can be a staple in people's diets when they have these conditions, but no FODMAPs in there. It's very soft on the body and they usually tolerate it well. So you could do something like cook your rice with bone broth instead of water, and that is going to add a massive amount of protein to that rice source. I just made a lovely beef stew. We had it for dinner last night, and instead of just using beef broth, I used beef bone broth to really increase the protein in there. I think my serving had something like 50 grams of protein, which is awesome. All right, and last thing, I know you were asking for not supplement ideas like bars and shakes, but there are some supplement products that can be helpful that are very easy to digest for people with these conditions. So I wanted to sneak them in too. Collagen is very easy to digest and super healing for the gut lining. So you can get unflavored collagen and kind of sneak it into anything. I personally can put it in water and just drink it. A lot of people like to put like a half a scoop into in their coffee in the morning. They could sneak it in there. If you wanted to do a low FODMAP shake, some low FODMAP fruit, and then throw a scoop of collagen in there, you're making your own protein shake essentially, but easy on the gut. Another thing, there's whey protein, which is going to be super hard in the digestive system because there's lactose in there. That is a FODMAP and going to create havoc on your stomach. But if you're to choose whey protein isolate, that is lactose free and going to be much easier for the body to digest. And last one, so I mentioned rice before, can be a staple for people with these conditions. I do like Naked Nutrition's organic rice protein powder. 1 scoop is 25 grams of protein per serving, and it's coming from just rice. So maybe something worth a try. All right, and just one little thing I wanted to add to the end here. When it comes to FODMAPs and treating these conditions, so FODMAP, it can be very dose dependent. So something like flaxseed, for example, a half of an ounce of flaxseed is going to be considered low FODMAP. Your stomach should be able to tolerate it if you just have that half an ounce throughout the course of a day. But if you have half an ounce in the morning and half at night, or just 1 ounce at one time, that is going to be considered high FODMAP because of the amount that adds up in that dose. Okay, so again, a lot of these foods can be very dose dependent. Some are completely FODMAP free. You can eat as much as you want of them, but just a little tip, I use the Monash University, so MONARSH, Monash University, their FODMAP app, to search for foods and to see the dosing and the dependence, the amount that someone might be able to have and tolerate. It's a really great tool, and I think it costs something like $5 for a forever membership or something like that, so totally worth it. All right, so I hope this is super helpful, and I hope you're not struggling too much right now with your digestion that you have going on. I know you're trying to get your protein intake up, so just real quick summary, low FODMAP proteins are going to be your best, so your meat sources, especially ones that are loaded with omega-3s, harder cheeses, plant proteins like chia seeds or peanut butter, but your plant protein sources would be a great place to check the app in terms of the dose dependency. Bone broth, either just sip on it or cook with it, like making your rice with it. And some supplements can be better than others. So it's collagen, whey protein isolate, and some organic rice protein. All right, so this was Ask Christy, question number 1. I'm excited for all the questions that I have to answer so far, week by week. If you're out there and you're like, wow, I think maybe I should talk to Christy. I've got some things going on and she might know what I need to do. If you are interested, if you go to the support page in the Balance app and you click on one-on-one nutrition services, I now offer a 15-minute complimentary consultation. If you want to chat with me, we'll book an appointment, 15 minutes, just you and I, and we'll talk about what you have going on, and we'll see if functional nutrition and maybe testing or a specific type diet, a whole plan essentially, we'll see if that's something that might fit you best. All right, so this is week 1. Stay tuned for some more questions. Everybody have a good week. Bye.